Every club. Every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.
Hello everybody and welcome back to the Daily Newcastle podcast. Now, you're guessing correctly, it is Tactics Tuesday, but as you can tell by the title of the video, this is a little bit of a transfer special. So we're going to be going through... In fact, you know what? I'll describe who we are first. Now, obviously, my name is Michael Grahamslaw, and I believe you'll know the rest of the team. But in case not, we've got Kevin. How's it going, Kev?
Yes. Of course, you got Kev, best person on this podcast. Should be on every single episode.
Absolutely
And
not.
Michael, Transfer Tuesday.
Exactly. I thought I'd just mix it up a little bit, but...
Transfer Tuesday.
Well, we'll try and do things a bit differently. And we are also joined by, bless her for keeping quiet until I've introduced her, Nicola! How's it going?
Hello. I'm also in the same bloody jumper that I recorded in yesterday, so no one judge me.
Yeah, you're scruff.
You recorded on the same day, if anybody asks, Nick. Don't tell anybody.
Well, true, yeah. Just told
It's
everyone
actually
that
the
I'm
same
an
watch as
absolute
well
bog
for like
rat.
4 days in a row.
Yeah, dear me. But anyway, I'm good.
Good. Now, what wasn't good, unfortunately, was Newcastle's result at the weekend. And what may rectify that is a couple of transfers. But for players to come in, we're possibly going to need players to leave. So, in part one, we're going to be talking about the rumoured departures from Newcastle United and giving our thoughts. Now, the first one, I think it's probably very obvious what people are going to say. Miguel Almiron has been linked to a number of teams in the Major League Soccer, or MLS as it's called, to normal people, for a rumoured fee of about 10 million. Now, what do we think of that, Kev? Do you think that's a good valuation for Miggy? And do you think, well, how are you feeling about him potentially leaving?
I think it probably is his time, but then I'm one of the people who said it was his time after that ridiculously good season when he played off his head out of nowhere. I said we should cash in whilst his stock will be high, but that's a bit more of a brutal approach. I think it is his time. He's not getting minutes in front of Jacob Murphy. Potentially, Eddie's going to want a new right winger. So again, that puts Miggy third choice, and he's not. We don't really play with a 10, so he can't be versatile in that way. He can't play any other position, whereas Gordon can play through the middle at times from a wing. That gets him extra minutes if Barnes is playing. But yeah, I think it's probably his right time to go. 10 million's probably a fair fee in terms of what he's done over the last couple of years. And I think it's a good homecoming for him. I think he's been linked with Atlanta, and I think Charlotte FC was another one.
Yeah.
Obviously a relatively new franchise, not club. But again, it's a case of both of them would be good fits for him. He gets to go, not home, because I know he's Paraguayan, but a league where he really has high stock and, a good reputation already. So I think it's a good move for everybody involved. I just hope when he does leave, he gets a bit of a farewell, even if he comes on for 2 minutes and we know it's going to happen after that game or something like that. That would be nice to see. But yeah, it's definitely Miggy's time. Get him off of wages, get £10 million and see how we can reinvest it.
Yeah, 100%. And to be honest, if any of our American listeners are listening, maybe Atlanta fans, let us know what you think about players, who are maybe a little bit past it in the Premier League, coming to join the MLS. Obviously, we saw the likes of Carlos Vela, etc. It does work at times, but let us know your thoughts. Now, Nick mentioned a bit about Miggy there. Do you feel the same as Kev? Is the timing right?
Yeah, I think the timing's been right for best part of a year now, hasn't it? Probably even a little bit longer than that, to be honest. Yeah, everything that Kev said, I completely agreed with. I think we covered it yesterday when me, you, and Ian recorded. He just doesn't impact the game anymore at all, or change it, or bring anything new or different. So I do think it's his time to go. And like Kev says, I just hope he maybe can get a couple of minutes for a bit of a farewell, because he did perform well for us. We will never forget October 2022, Miggy, because he performed well. I don't know what happened to him, but he smashed it. But yeah, it's definitely his time to go, and it has been for a while, I think. So I'm just, I sound a bit bad saying this, but I'm hoping they can just get the deal done. I know we've still got 10, 11 days of the transfer window, but yeah.
Would you potentially argue that Miggy Almiron's going to be up there with maybe the likes of Shola Amiobi, who weren't good enough for the club given who was around him, but still a bit of a cult hero at the club and, worth that name, really? What do you think, Nick?
I don't know if he goes into cult hero, category for me. I don't know. No, I don't. For cult hero, I don't think he definitely doesn't go into that for me. I appreciate everything that he'd done at a time where we really needed, the team to pull it out the bag. That was quite a pivotal moment in, obviously, sort of Newcastle's new reign, if you like. But yeah, for me, I don't think he goes into cult hero status. I don't know if that's a bit of a bold. I feel a bit bad saying that.
What do you think, Kev? Do you agree?
Oh, it's a tough one. He's like on the borderline. You've got obviously legends, icons, cult heroes, and then maybe favoured personnel who we just quite like, but we don't get any of them. I think he's probably in the favoured personnel. He's always welcome back any time, but I don't know if we can call him a cult hero or a legend or an icon. So I think he's going to have to go into, for me, favoured personnel. He can come back any time. He'd always be welcome. I think if any Newcastle fan sees him in the street after he leaves, it'll always be a positive experience for him. I don't think anyone's really got like a bad word to say about him. Obviously, his work rate has been brilliant. That season where we finished fourth, obviously, he just turned into like Miguel Messi. It was unbelievable. And then obviously we knew he wasn't that good at the time, or I think most sensible fans knew that wasn't like his level. He was always kind of above it, a little bit like Jacob Murphy is at the minute. But I think he's favoured personnel. He's not a cult hero. He's not an icon, and he's not a legend. But he's favoured personnel.
Definitely not.
I'll put him in that category. Favoured personnel.
Okay.
But we'll always remember his goal against PSG.
Oh, yes.
First Champions League goal in 20 years. He's in the history book.
Plenty of fantastic moments.
Yeah.
Plenty of fantastic moments, and a player that I'll miss, but I won't miss seeing him on the pitch at the minute. To be honest.
If you're listening, Nicky,
so what will you miss about him?
The face, the happy-go-lucky attitude, the videos.
What videos is Miggy Almiron sending Michael here?
You don't see my WhatsApp.
Oh dear.
No, so we move on from War Miggy, and we move on to something that came out this week, which has very much surprised me. Lloyd Kelly. Fenerbahce were linked. 6 million bid was launched and rightly rejected, in my opinion. 15 million is said to be the next offer from Juventus, of all teams, and that seems baffling to me, but Juventus are in a bit of a slump at the minute. I say that, they're unbeaten in the league, but the team isn't exactly... It's not exactly where it wants to be, though, and that's why they had to sell in the summer. They are maybe... Well, they've drawn more. They're only unbeaten because they've drawn so many games. They want to be a bit higher than what they are at the moment. And apparently Lloyd Kelly is one of the answers to that. What do you think, Kev? Do you think Kelly to Juventus could be on, or is Fenerbahce a bit more likely?
I'm not sure. I wasn't massively surprised because before we signed him, apparently AC Milan wanted him on a free. And I thought, well, he must be good if AC Milan won, yeah. I think with Kelly, I don't think we've seen the real him yet. I think he's still bedding in. We've seen what it's like under Eddie Howe. I think if Eddie Howe had his way, he wouldn't play a lot of minutes. When Eddie Howe makes a signing, it's very rare we just come into a team. Lewis Hall's a prime example of that. He had pretty much a full year on the bench and has now had an international cap for England, and everyone's talking about him being the best left back in the league. So I think under Eddie, with a year under his belt, settled in the area, moved his family up, made new friends, made a new life. I think people forget sometimes footballers are humans, and that's part of it as well.
Yeah.
I think we haven't seen the best of him. I think he probably is quite a good player, but it's really tempting to accept a £15 million bid, because if profitability rules are there, what a profit that is. Signed for zero, sold for 15 million. That there is very tempting. How much of that can you then reinvest? We spoke before on, I think, Wildcard Wednesday, is how unfan friendly these PSR rules are. But I mean, surely if it's profitability and sustainability, and we're making that much of a profit on one player, we've got a bit of freeway. So yeah, I would accept 15 million. To be honest, I think when you look at his standing in the squad, I know I've just been saying we haven't seen the best from him yet, but he's probably fifth choice centre half. I think Kraft might play centre half before Kelly. I guess what does help Lloyd a lot is that he's left footed. So if Byrne and Botman are out and he wants a left footer in, Kelly is naturally next. But like I say, he played Kraft centre half in the Cups this year and he did really well. So yeah, tough one. I think if he goes, brilliant, because we'll get money to spend, I'm assuming, with profitability. But if he doesn't go, I'm not too worried, because I think after a year settled in, look at Gordon. Gordon came in January, didn't get a lot of minutes, took him about 6 months to get going. So we do need to be a little bit more patient with Kelly. He's still relatively young. He's a left footer, centre half, all the physical attributes you could want. Looks very comfortable on the ball. Just needs to settle in. I'm happy either way with him. I'm not too bothered which way that one goes at the minute.
What about you, Nick? What do you think? Do you agree with Kev?
Yeah, I do partially agree with Kev. I don't know if I'm just looking at it from a different light, and I'm a bit frustrated with Lloyd Kelly because I expected more. But then I also do see it from the point of, has he really had enough time to settle into the Newcastle squad? Probably not.
Yeah.
It's probably the fairest answer for that one. But from what I've seen of him when he has played for us, I haven't been mad impressed. And I know when we did sign him, a lot of the fans of Bournemouth were sort of saying, he's not that great. Like, I do hope he performs for you guys, but blah blah blah. So yeah, I'm not too impressed. I think if the deal goes ahead, we've done well to pull it off, to be honest.
Yeah. I'd
And I
agree.
wouldn't be mad if he does go. I feel really bad saying that about players because I know I'm supposed to be for everyone, but I wouldn't be mad if he does go because then it puts us in a better position. If him and Miggy both go, we've then got that money to invest elsewhere and where we need to invest. Because like Kev says, is Lloyd Kelly probably a fourth, fifth choice? So yeah,
he's definitely not
kind of on the
top
fence with it.
one of the top three. So I completely agree. I think it's one of those where if you can get 15 million, I mean, some publications were saying 30. I think that's
not
baffling. That's baffling.
If that's the case, we want 80 million for Sean Longstaff.
We'll probably get it off Man United, so let's ask for that.
I think with Kelly, just one thing. I know when he has played, Nick's right. Like, there has been shaky moments, but there was a game against Chelsea in the cup. I can't remember if it was a quarter-final when we beat Chelsea. He was the best player on the pitch. Like, he looked after the winger really well. He covered the left back. He was really good with the ball. I thought, he's going to be a really good player. And then he didn't play again for like 3 or 4 weeks, and when he came in, a bit shaky. I think he needs a general, like a long run in the team. When I say long, I don't mean like first choice, but if there's a couple of injuries and he gets 3, 4, 5 games in a row and he does get maybe a couple extra months on top of what he's already had to settle, I still think he could be a really good player. I personally thought when we signed him, it was the natural replacement for Byrne because Howe loves a tall fullback in terms of Byrne. And Byrne can play centre half or left back, and Kelly is literally just a new Dan Byrne. He can play left back and centre back. He's really tall, and he's relatively good with his feet for someone that tall. So I thought, well, hold on a minute. Once Dan Byrne leaves, Kelly just takes over Byrne, whatever like squad role Byrne has at that time. Kelly becomes the new Dan Byrne. So that was kind of my thoughts when he came in. But then, like I said, in a couple of cup games, he was playing Kraft centre half alongside Shaw or whoever it was. And Kelly wasn't getting a look in. I was thinking, my God, when Lascelles comes back, Kelly's really not going to get a look in. So that's where for 15 million comes in. You're thinking, okay, maybe we take that.
Yeah, 100%. You're a little worried about injuries if we do let Kelly go because Lascelles and Kraft have missed more games than I have. And I haven't played for Newcastle. So, but yeah, we'll end on one last player. And I know very much how this is going to go. Arsenal are interested in a certain striker, but also view Matheus Cunha and John Duran as more likely options. But they look likely to lose out to John Duran to West Ham, who've just put 57 million in for him. So, quickly, one word. I'm going to give you 5 seconds. Alexander Isak to Arsenal. Is it happening?
I can do it in 2 seconds. Arsenal, you can't afford them. Done.
What Kev said. Yeah, what Kev said. Back off.
Alexander Isak isn't going to Arsenal. Don't be fooled. Otherwise, they're not good enough for him. Exactly. And on that note, we're going to move to our first advert of the episode from Zencastr.
Here at the Global Sports Podcast Network, we spent a lot of time selecting our delivery platform. Zencastr came out the clear winner. With 4K video recording from your phone and AI editing that automatically removes all those ums and ahs, it is super easy to start a podcast that sounds great and is delivered efficiently. If you're ready to tell your story, check out the link in the show description to learn more about Zencastr.
Absolutely cracking, Nick. Thank you very much. We've talked about potential departures. Now, those potential departures might lead to a potential signing from Newcastle. Again, I'm saying potential far too much because I don't think it's going to happen. But the reason for that is obviously FFP, or whatever it is decided to be called now. And actually, I saw something online this morning, which was an absolutely brilliant example of how sort of a metaphor for financial fair play. So I'm going to give it now, and I am going to give credit to the guy who done it, Dominic 227336662. You didn't make it easy, big Dom. But think of it like managing a household budget. Imagine you've got a pay rise, higher revenue, and you've sold some old stuff you don't need. That's player sales. On paper, it feels like you've got extra money to spend, but then you realise you're still paying off that fridge you bought last year. Transfer installments, which, very relatable. Bills, they've gone up, obviously, your wages and your agent fees. You're saving for a bigger goal, like a new house, your long-term sustainability, and even the bank, FFP, lets you borrow a little. They have strict rules about how much you can spend and get into trouble, and how much you can get for money for new things. Most of it is already spoken for, which is frustrating, but in the long game, it's not really helpful for anybody. Now, that's something that I could say to absolutely anyone, and I think it could be a lot more relatable. And I know a lot of people look at the financial fair play rules, and even though Kev did them fantastically on a Wildcard Wednesday before, I still sit there and go, you know what, I've got no idea what I'm cracking on about.
Me either. I'm glad I'm not the only
one. I haven't got a clue, and I researched it.
I don't even think they've got a clue what they're going on about.
They just make it up as they go along.
They make it up every day.
To be fair, it's a fantastic kind of way to explain it, but what you've got to add in there is some people who are having all them bills and things, like Man United, are massively in debt and shouldn't even be allowed to get a fridge freezer in the first place.
Yeah. They've maxed out 44 credit cards.
49 credit cards in, and we still can just sign players. Unbelievable.
Turkey dinosaur. Mate.
Credit scores through the roof, and Amex are sitting there going, you know what? Have a platinum card on us.
Right. Brilliant.
That's brilliant.
Man United, you're £1 billion in debt.
But on to the topic at hand, and the sales of Almiron and Kelly. Do we think they'll give us a little bit of leeway in the market? And if you could strengthen one position for a 25 to 30 million, would you? And what position would it be? Or are Newcastle fine for this coming season? Kev, what do you think? Do we need anybody? Or
I don't know if we need anybody. I think the thing with these rules, I mean, we changed the name from financial fair play because we realised it wasn't fair. And we turned it into profitability and sustainability rules, didn't it? PSR is now what it's called. So we've done that because they realise that we are limiting certain clubs. I think Newcastle have been quite clever. There was money in the summer, which hasn't reappeared yet. And I think we're being quite clever by saying our hands are behind our back, profitability, sustainability, all this stuff. But I think we're doing it so we don't get the Newcastle tax I think the days are gone where the takeover first happened and we wanted Gordon, like on the documentary on Amazon, and we said, we want 80 million for Gordon. And they were like, no, absolutely not. You've doubled what you really want. And then we got him for 40, which in turn looks like a fair price now.
100%.
So I think it takes away the whole, well, Newcastle's coming in, we're going to rub our hands together and we're going to rip them off by 20 million. So I think it helps that this is a constant message from a club. But I think there is money there. And I think I don't think we need to strengthen. It would be nice to strengthen. Fresh faces normally always help. Position-wise, it's really difficult. I think the right wing is the obvious answer because everyone talks about we're short on right wingers and we'd love a Bakayoko or a Anthony Elanga or a Justin Kluivert after that performance on the weekend.
Less said.
It's a case of that would be an obvious answer, but I honestly think we might need a striker.
Yeah.
If Isak gets injured, Wilson, I love Callum Wilson. I will defend him to the hilt. He doesn't want his body to let him down. We don't want his body to let him down. But if Isak gets injured, we're in big trouble, by the way. We could probably stick Gordon on the right for a couple of games and get through an injury to Murphy. We could probably stick Joe Linton on the right and get through a couple of games. I mean, Gordon could go on the right and you could put Barnes on the left. Barnes could go on the right. There's players who can play that position. Yes, they're not what we want right now, but that could maybe wait till the summer. I genuinely think we need a striker. If Isak gets injured, we are... Honestly, I like Asuli, he looks great, but you can't just chuck him in at the deep end like that. In Gordon, if you play him as a striker, you do lose that kind of that strength on the left wing. So, if I could pick, I'd go striker, which is an unpopular opinion, but I guess that's what I'm here for.
And it's exactly the answer I wanted. Thank you very much, Kev. What do you think, Nick?
To everything that Kev said.
Everything that I said, everything that Kev said, every single bit.
She can't swear, so it's going to be tough for her to do this.
Yeah. I have said for a while, and this was before shock horror Callum Wilson got injured again, a striker was probably needed. This is before Isak has hit the form of his life, because obviously we've got Osula, but we don't really see, we don't see much of him at all, other than the odd cup game here and there when obviously Isak's getting a rest. And I do agree with what Kev says. If hopefully not anywhere near the future, Isak does get injured, what do we do? What do we do? We've got a really important run of games coming up. Like I said yesterday, we can't be losing players like that. So yeah, I think if we were to strengthen anywhere, obviously it would be the right wing, which we've always discussed, and that's always been discussed, and a striker. But my other argument is, what do we do if Lewis Hall gets injured?
Big Dan Burn, Matt Target.
Yeah, right, that's fine. But
you could put Tino left back and bring Trippier in right back.
Did they not do that at the weekend? And it,
Yeah, but that's a one-off game, innit? In the last 10. I think if Hall gets injured, we've got enough at left back. We've got Tino. Tino can come in.
Say Matt Target, but when was the last time we seen Matt Target play? Yeah, true. Okay, forget what I said then. Yeah, whatever. What you guys say goes.
Yep, boys are correct. Well done, Mike.
Move on.
All I said was Target can play 10 minutes. Didn't even exaggerate.
You're getting tarred with the same brush as me. I like it. It's good.
Always pulling in at the deep end. Always the bad guy, but it's fine. One thing I wanted to mention was we've spoke about Bournemouth, and everyone sort of forgets how much Bournemouth have also spent alongside us. And when looking at who we're pretty much up against in regards to losses, we are 90 million behind Arsenal, who are in the world just one step ahead of us. And we've actually over the last 3 seasons from transfers only lost 10 million more than Bournemouth, 9 million more than Nottingham Forest. So when you look at it that way, realistically, there should be more there to spend.
Yeah,
for
the club's
Newcastle.
being coy. I'm telling you now, I've been we're coming out with the same message all the time, so that when we bid for a player, we don't rub our hands together and be like, "We've got 380 billion. Let's ask for double." Because the club will just say, "Look, listen to our interviews, listen to what Eddie said, listen to what Mitchell said, listen to what Gudusi said. There's nothing there. We are stuck. Yeah. We will give you this money, you either take it or leave it." I think the club are sending a message, and I know fans get upset at times when they hear stuff, but like we have to realise the game they're going to play as businessmen. They're all very, very good businessmen. We do not want to get ripped off on a purchase or any sort of investment. So I think there's money there. There was money there in the summer. I think if Kelly goes and Miggy maybe goes, there's even more money there. And I think it's just a case of let's just give them a chance. I think the big thing is Eddie only wants to bring in a player if it's the right player. I don't think he's going to bring in somebody to sit on the bench and make up the numbers. He wants somebody to add to the first team. And if they're not going to add to the first team, he's not going to sign them.
Yeah, 100%. And sort of what I wanted to add just to end off was apparently we were willing to spend 70 million for Mark Guay. My belief there is that it's 40 million or whatever, and then there's add-ons on top of it. Oh, thank God we didn't. But was the money there, like Kev is suggesting, or were we potentially, that Gordon sale, was that potentially actually, were we ready for that to go through? What do we think? Do we think the Gordon deal might have been a bit closer than we think, and that's why 70 million was on the table? Or are you sticking with what you said, Kev, of we're just being coy, we're being clever?
I think we are being kind of. I think Gordon's interviews recently have been amazing, haven't they? He's actually been really honest.
Yeah,
he's like, just let us play my football. People are making up things like, I'm a footballer, just let me play. I have to read all this stuff in the summer and I can't really come out and say what I want to say because I'm negotiating a new contract. I think the club probably do have an idea of who we can let go. And I think the club probably have an idea, and as much as Newcastle fans don't want to hear this, but every player has a price.
Agreed.
And I think that is fair. As much as we love the likes of Bruno and Isak and all them, there will be a price which the owners will be like, that's too good to turn down. And again, we don't know how good Isak's amazing, right? We love him, but is it Eddie Howe effect? Look what Eddie Howe's done with Joe Linton and Jacob Murphy and Emil Kraft and players like that. Isak could be a very good striker, but he might play his best football for us in his whole career, and we make 200 million off him. We haven't got a clue. I'm not saying that's the case, but yeah, I think the club's just back to your original question. I think the club's just being coy, and I think maybe if we did bring it in, we might have been forced into a sale of a Callum Wilson in the summer where he had like 12 months left, or a Lascelles if he'd stayed fit. I think they're the type of players we're going to try and not force out, because I don't think we want that, but we will ship out if we get in somebody. But I just think they're being coy. I think they're being very clever businessmen and saying, you know what, we've got no money, so you can take a 40 million or you can leave it, but you're not going to ask 80 off us.
Yeah.
100%. Do you agree, Nick?
Yeah, completely. We've said before, and I mean, we've done so many of these pods now. It must have been on one of the earlier pods of the season when the summer transfer window was happening. You know, football is a business. Now, I know we all love it and we all, love our clubs and players, etc. That, like Kev says, it is a business to these people. So if the right offer comes along for, Isak or any other player in the squad, and it makes our owners and Eddie and, look at it, then they will look at it. And it's like, yeah, it's just a business, and that's kind of how we've somehow got to look at it. Sometimes you have to take the emotion out of it and look at it that way, because there will be a day where these players probably do move or do go. Hopefully not in the near future, obviously, but yeah, completely agree. I don't disagree with you this time, Kev.
Absolutely spot on. We're all getting along. Who would have thought? And on that happy note, we're going to move to our second advert of the day. This one from the Global Sports Podcast Network.
Perfect. The Global Sports Podcast Network is changing the face of football podcasting with dedicated daily content for every Premier League team, women's football, a dedicated Premier League wrap-up in 5 different languages too. This is your one-stop shop for your daily football fix. Find the Global Sports Podcast Network wherever you find your usual podcasts.
Absolutely cracking, Kev. Thank you very much. So, we spoke about departures and potential arrivals for Newcastle, both relatively long, but also not a lot really to talk about. So we've done fantastically there, because 2 players out and probably no one coming in. But I wanted to ask you both a question about, well, as a little summary. When I was growing up, I used to love the transfer window. I used to sit and watch Deadline Day every single year, and I used to absolutely love it, and I used to think transfers were the most exciting time of the year, apart from big games.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if it's just because I'm a bit older, but it never has that same excitement. There's never a Peter Rodham wingy on Deadline Day or anything anymore. And as it stands, only Manchester City, Aston Villa, Crystal Palace, Ipswich Town, and Leicester City have made signings, and we're 2/3 of the way through the window. So I'm going to ask you, do you believe PSR and financial fair play before it has ruined football transfers, or do you think because of what Manchester City did to football and the Premier League, it's actually been beneficial? Nick, I will start with you.
Oh, God, $1 million question. I agree in the fact that I now find transfer windows very bleak, particularly the January. Just nothing happens, and I'm just going to sit here and say it. Teams are scared to spend money now because they're scared of the repercussions. We just sat here before the podcast saying we don't know when we're recording, we don't know the rules of financial fair play or PSR. So there will be some people somewhere within football that also can't keep up with it because they change, everything about it all the time, and it's impossible to keep up, and no matter what you do. And then every other week there's something, this club's been investigated for breaching PSR, this club's been investigated for this. It's just impossible to keep up with. So I don't know if that's maybe set not the fear, but sort of set a little bit of doubt into a lot of teams of, I don't want to spend this money right now because what if we do get caught out and they're not realizing they're doing something. But the likes of sort of, Chelsea, who seem to have unlimited money and sign every single player on a 10-year contract, have ruined. You've got, Manchester City, which I cannot believe this, but Manchester City's just extended Haaland's contract by another 9 years. I mean, that what is going
115 months.
Half a million
understand.
a week, by the way.
Yeah, I don't understand.
Insanity.
I still don't understand how they're just, scot-free at them. I don't get it. Yeah, I don't know. I think teams like that have ruined it for a lot of people. You've obviously got the smaller teams, sort of the less rich teams, if you like, struggling to stay afloat and just
Peasants.
I wouldn't describe them as peasants, but yeah,
380 billion, they are the peasants.
Yeah, they're selling their sort of better players to just sometimes even stay afloat. So it's quite sad. And yeah, I just think the transfer windows, as the years have gone on, particularly as the rules have changed, it's got a bit boring. You don't see anything now, really.
Yeah, I completely agree. Kev, what do you think? Is PSR/FFP ruined football transfers?
I think I could do a full episode on this with just what I want to get in, what's in my head at a minute. The first thing with your answer, I think it may have ruined football, but I don't think it's ruined the transfer window. I think Fabrizio Romano has single-handedly ruined the transfer window.
I agree with that.
I remember sitting in my room, right, and like it would come on Sky Sports News that Robinho signed for Man City. I was like, whoa, I've got to stay tuned. I need to see this Robinho coming to the Premier League. Manchester City? What? But now I would have seen that tweet 8 hours beforehand, and when it's announced, I'm like, yeah, that's old news. Move on.
Yeah.
Like Romano single-handedly ruined the transfer window, so let's get a ban on him, right? To start with, if we want the transfer window to come back to be fantastic. But PSR itself, in terms of us, I feel like it's like a double-edged sword. Would we love to spend all of our 300 billion? Of course we would. It would be absolutely iconic seeing the head loss of other teams when we literally just gather players for the fun of it. Like we just buy Mbappe for the under 21 so you can whack Sunderland every week. Like that would be unbelievable to see heads fall off. But also, I feel like financial fair play in a way is helping us. You can't. You can no longer buy. Let's go back and use an old example for the listeners who we're too young to even know who this is. Sebastian Veron. Or Juan Sebastian Veron, really good player, right?
Yeah.
Didn't work out in the Premier League, didn't work out for Man U. So what did we do? We just sold him really quickly and bought in somebody else. Now you can't do that because you are making an investment in a player. You cannot sell him for less than what you've just bought him a year later, which encourages coaches and teams to give players a chance, work with the coach, can they improve? And when we're talking about things like that, we've got one of the best in the league at making players better and making them improve. So actually, what Howe's having to do with Murphy and Kraft and that is actually really helping us as a team because eventually we will sell them players for a big profit. Like, look at Isak, right? He's a great player. We bought him for 63 million. Eddie Howe has turned him, not single-handedly, the team's good and Isak has a lot of potential, but you look at his record in Spain, there's no way would anybody have ever said before he joined Newcastle that he'd be selling Isak for 150 million. Right? No, so we have a coach who can actually turn these players, don't just sell them a year later like Pep. Pep brings in Claudio Bravo, right, as a number one goalkeeper for a stupid amount of money. He sells them after a year because he's not doing the job. I can't be bothered to coach him. I don't care about financial fair play. Sell Bravo and bring in Edison. Another 50 million spent because I can't be bothered to coach him. We have the best manager who will take players in and be like, look what he's got out with Dan Burn. Like, come on, none of us thought Dan Burn was that good, including me when he signed. I was like, what on earth are we signing Brighton's fourth choice centre half? Turns out he gets a goal against PSG and he's absolutely colossal. Like, we have a manager who can make profit off players. I think long term, it will help us weirdly, but also it kind of takes the fun out of being the richest club in the world, doesn't it? So
it's boring.
A double-edged sword for me, but in terms of ruining a transfer window, that's single-handedly Fabrizio Romano. So pick that out what you can.
Yeah, I hate Fabrizio Romano. I hate PSR. I hate FFP. Honestly, January, worst month of the year. Dry Jan. People have to stop. People try and stop drinking. Get into the gym for 2 weeks.
Who's going to the gym?
Nicola and I eat a lot more than anyone else. You could bench press me and Kev at the same time.
Yeah.
But people go, they go for a week and decide, you know what, that's not for me. I'm getting back on the burgers and back on the bevs.
Takes ages to get paid, right? Takes donkeys to get paid. It's a grey sky every day. There's never a nice day. Who's had a nice day in January? Right, on top of that, you got Fabrizio Romano tweeting things 8 hours before it's about to hit Sky Sports. But we do have a manager who can turn a profit from bang average players.
There we go.
That's a nice little positive.
That's it. See you tomorrow.
Well done.
Yeah. You know what? I'm going to leave it on that. We've been the Daily Newcastle podcast. We love yous. See yous later.
Every club. Every day. The Global Sports Podcast Network.